If you're a Bears fan, you're thinking forward progress. Come on.
10, 219, 219.
Forward Progress, a Chicago Bears podcast with Dan Bernstein and Matt Abaticola on 312 Sports.
We award you Forward Progress here on 312 Sports. Bernstein, Abaticola here on this pre-Bears and Packers Wednesday, joined by Matt Miller of ESPN. You can follow him at NFL Draft Scout and read all of his work covering pro football, college football, and the intersection therein. He is with us now. Matt, how are you?
Doing well. Excited for the playoffs. Dan, in all the years that we've known each other, have the Bears ever been in the playoffs?
The actual playoffs?
Yeah.
Well, I remember when they expanded, the Bears and the Saints had that one game at the end of the Nagy era, and it didn't feel like it, but they were in.
Yes, but this feels like it.
Yes,
it certainly does.
Feels like a playoff team, and we get
for
to
sure.
talk about it.
Now, Matt, we haven't talked to you, and I know we'll look at the playoffs here real quick, but we haven't chatted since that Bears-Niners game. What was your what was your reaction watching that game that just kept going back and forth, and Brock Purdy looked like a different level, man?
I didn't have to work that day or the next day, so I actually went to a bar and watched it with some friends because they know I grew up a Niners fan, and one of my best friends is a Bears fan, so it's like we're going to go watch this game together. And as I'm watching the game, I'm thinking, gosh, Bernstein and Abaticola are going to give me so much shit for this game. I'm just like, the whole time I'm thinking the Bears are going to win, and I'm never going to hear the end of it from you guys. And then, thankfully, I got the flu, so I didn't get to talk to you guys last week. But, I mean, Caleb looked great. And I go back to that. You're right. Purdy, we talked about Purdy being like a distributor. He heard it, apparently, because that game he played out of his mind, and he's swagged out, using his legs, doing dances when he scores. And I think for both teams, you come off that game, and then they both laid an egg the following week. You know, it's like the Bears lose to the Lions, the Niners lose to the Seahawks, and the offense can't do anything. It's almost like you gave it all that night, and you left a little too much on the field, maybe, because I did think week 17, neither team looked like themselves. And you can have the argument of like, were you playing for anything? Well, the Niners definitely were, because they were alive for the number one seed. So I hope we see more of that. There's the possibility that we could see a rematch of that game. And I think that'd be a ton of fun to see Caleb Williams going against that defense one more time.
Yeah, because if that's a rematch, that's at Soldier Field for the NFC Championship game, which I would definitely take that.
Yeah, you'd be okay with that. And listen, I know we've talked about this for weeks, guys. I feel like the NFC is wide open. I feel like both NFC and AFC are wide open. Someone asked me yesterday, who do you think is going to make the Super Bowl? And I was like, I think Bills Niners would be a lot of fun as somebody who grew up in the 90s. And, I remember every year Chris Berman would predict Bills Niners as his preseason Super Bowl pick, and it's like, I feel like every year he had at least one of them right for a long time. And so I think the nostalgia of it all would be, like Bills Niners would be great, but it is so wide open. We could lay out an argument for every team, including the Carolina Panthers, including the, New England Patriots or Jacksonville Jaguars, teams that in the summer we didn't think would be here. You could make an argument that every one of those teams could make a run through this thing.
If the Bears are able to score enough points to cover for what their defense has become, why and how? What is going to make the difference in this game, allowing them to minimize their defensive liabilities and maximize the points?
Yeah, I mean, I do think it could go one of two ways. It could go like the other games against the Packers where, the last game we got some turnovers from Chicago. That was a difference. They were able to run the ball. Or it could be like that Niners game where it's just straight shootout. It's 1-for-1. It's just whoever gets the ball last basically is going to win the game. I would look at this more like what we've seen the Bears-Packers first two games looks like, where I would think a little bit more ball control. The Packers they've been so banged up. I mean, they've lost 4 of their last 5. Josh Jacobs has been hurt. Jordan Love has been hurt. Edgerrin Cooper's hurt right now. Like they're so hurt right now that it's hard to get a read on who they are coming into the playoffs. And I think it would be easy to dismiss them and say, even if you have Love and Jacobs back, they haven't been out there. They've been hurt. What is this team actually going to look like? I think it'd be easy to dismiss that and say, oh, this is just a warm-up game. We're going to move on to, round 2. But it's a rivalry and you've seen each other twice. It's so hard. You know each other so well. You're not hiding anything at this point, but I would expect, and I haven't looked at the forecast, I would expect Chicago to come out with a little bit more of that ball control offense that we saw in the first two games instead of what we saw from Caleb against San Francisco, where you have to play like that to beat the Niners, especially when they, come out and score on the first couple of drives. You knew you had to throw to win in that game. But I would think this is probably more of a DeAndre Swift game than it is a Caleb Williams game.
You asked about the forecast, potentially snow, potentially accumulating snow and wind. I hope it's not, because I don't think we need a silly, stupid elements game at this point. But until there's a roof on that field, it's something that they're going to have to deal with. Do you think both teams are equally equipped to deal with difficult footing or problem passing?
You would hope so, right? I mean, this is Bears Packers. If you're going to think of like two teams that could handle a little bit of snow, a little bit of rough footing, it's like it should be them in Buffalo, right? This is what you're made for. You understand, like if you're building a team that has playoff aspirations, it's going to be cold, it's going to be windy, it's probably going to be wet, and that can be an advantage. I think it's an advantage for Chicago, especially with Micah Parsons out, without that speed rush from Green Bay. I think it does play into your hand a little bit more, kind of a cold weather, rough tumble game. I just think the Bears offensive line matches up against this Packers front seven really, really well. And we've seen that, over the course of two games. So that's where I would go. And I watch what's going to happen is Caleb's going to throw for like 430 and 4 touchdowns. And it's going to be like, oh, well, it had to be a shootout, but and I think a lot of that too is like, DJ Moore's questionable. Rome Odunze's questionable. Is Luther Burden on the injury report still? He was, recently. So I think at some point you got to play to your personnel as well and say, okay, we've proven we can beat this team on the ground, and by playing smart defensively and baiting Jordan Love into some plays, here's an opportunity to do that again. Even and depending on how healthy Jordan Love is, and Malik Willis is banged up. So it's like a war of attrition between these two teams right now.
Some of the firings this week, Matt, were not a surprise at all. Even some of the coordinator positions were not a surprise at all. John Harbaugh was a bit of a surprise to most people. 18 seasons, and they, just missed the playoffs on a missed field goal by a young kicker. What was your take on that decision by the Ravens?
I was surprised, but it felt like the smoke had been there. And same for a lot of these teams, even like Atlanta. I had some people that were surprised. And I think we talked about it on this show like a month ago, that it sounded like Atlanta can make a change. And so it's wild. If Loop makes that kick, does Mike Tomlin get fired instead? It's like it's one way. This could have gone one way or the other. So I'm not surprised. After 18 years, I think the message gets stale. And I think we've seen that. And I think it's really, really hard to even upkeep the culture, which is something Harbaugh has been so good at there. It's hard to keep that up over 18 seasons and the different iterations of your team. They have a lot to address there. I mean, Lamar Jackson, it feels like is hurt as much as he's healthy. And it seems like it's a lot of times it's a big game where he's not at 100%. They've got to figure out what they're doing from a strength and conditioning and health standpoint up there, because he's your team. Like that's the team. It's him and Kyle Hamilton. And if Lamar's out, well, that makes things really, really tricky. So I would think that would be a desirable job. Hopefully they, bring in someone young that's going to open things up a little bit more. I feel like they've become pretty one-dimensional. It's like, if Lamar and Derrick Henry are shut down on the ground, they're pretty beatable. So finding someone that can open things up and kind of do what Ben Johnson did in Chicago. I know that's not that easy to find, but someone that can do that is what they need.
Well, that's why Kevin Stefanski's name is at the top of lists. And now Cliff Kingsbury's as well, saying that here is somebody who clearly changed his system when he was asked to design something for a college quarterback coming in, and made it easier for him, made it more collegiate for him, that may have delayed his development in a way, possibly. And I don't think he's got a bad case, perhaps, in being that young, energetic, offensive mind that teams are looking for.
I also think there's a very strong possibility he goes to Kansas City and reunites with Patrick Mahomes, because that was talked about when Eric Bieniemy his contract expired and he went to do his own thing. Now Matt Nagy's contract expiring, he's going to go do his own thing. I could see Kingsbury doing a year under Andy Reid to prove himself a little bit more. This year did not go well. And even you mentioned it, Dan, like, did they help Jaden Daniels by running a college offense and getting him out there and winning Rookie of the Year, or did they hurt him? because now in year 2, he's stunted. And I think, isn't it fun to go back in time a year ago and look at the things that people were saying about Caleb Williams against Jake Daniels and now where we are now? Sometimes it's better to get your ass kicked year 1 and learn, because it's better for you long term to take those lumps and have to learn how the NFL works, as opposed to, having someone come in and run a college offense for you. Deshaun Watson, same thing happened to him. But forget the off field. They fired a coach. They changed the offense. They run a college offense. He looks like a future MVP for a couple of years until he had to run an NFL offense and on top of the off field stuff, and things fell off. So I think Cliff is a really interesting candidate. As a head coach, I wouldn't be super excited about him as a head coach unless you're pairing him with a defensive coordinator who's essentially a head coach. And I don't know that you're going to get Brian Flores to do that, right? Like who's your guy? Are you going to get Anthony Weaver from Miami, who's also interviewing for head coaching positions? It would almost have to be an arranged marriage.
Matt Eberflus is available. I mean,
no one wants that.
No
one wants that.
Where are you on Nagy in this go round? On Nagy 2.0, if you think he is 2.0, because you were like high man on him last time around.
Well, the important thing is getting the quarterback right. He didn't get the quarterback right, and also I think being in a situation where you are in lockstep with your front office, and they have that really well in Kansas City. If he goes to Tennessee, you're probably going to have that with Berganzi, given their influence and how much time they've spent together in Kansas City. So that would be ideal. I don't know with Nagy, and I don't know how much this is percolated outside of Kansas City, but that Chiefs offense looked terrible this year. And you can blame the offensive line. You can blame the fact that the running backs are terrible. You still have Patrick Mahomes. You still have Rashee Rice. You spent a first-round pick on Xavier Worthy. You still have Travis Kelce. That offense looked terrible. It looked out of sync. It was predictable. And for whatever reason, and locally, a lot of people say, well, Pacheco can't run out from under center. Okay, bench his ass. Put somebody back there that can. If that's what's holding your offense back, is that your running back can't run from under center, get a different running back. They're a dime a dozen. You're holding back the greatest quarterback of our generation over a running back? Come on. So I think there's a lot of questions for Nagy of what can you do without Patrick Mahomes? And it's safe for Bieniemy. Where's he at right now? I actually don't even know.
He's here.
Is he in Washington? Is he there?
No, he's in Chicago.
He's running backs coach, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So, that's worked out very well for him.
It sure has.
But, it's a matter of what can you do when you don't have an all-time great. And Josh McDaniels has done a pretty good job of being okay without Tom Brady in this go-round. But I think that's the ideal for Nagy, is that he gets with someone who understands his vision and can go get him the players he needs, because he didn't have that in Chicago. And Mitch obviously never elevated to being the quarterback they thought he would be there.
All right, Matt, final few minutes with you. I want to talk a little college football. But before we get into the games that are taking place the next 2 nights, the 2 big games, NFL draft order is set for at least the top, 13 or 15 teams, whatever it might be. But looking at 1, 2, 3, Raiders, Jets, and then Cardinals, if they were to move on from Kyler Murray, what do you think happens with these quarterbacks coming out in 2026 and the teams that have a need for quarterback, particularly at 1, 2, and 3?
Yeah, I think the Raiders will take Fernando Mendoza. That feels pretty good. I think Tom Brady's going to watch Mendoza and be like, 6'5", 235-pound pocket passer who just carves people up and is poised and is smart and plays with touch. I think Brady's going to love him. Dante Moore from Oregon, if he decides to come out, would be slotted in at number 2 and be a pretty popular pick. I think, the Jets are the Jets and they're a mess there, but you have to hope they eventually get it right. They've got a ton of draft capital. So whether it's this year or next year, 26 or 27, they have to pull the trigger on a quarterback. That could be Dante Moore. Arizona's fascinating to me because Kyler Murray hasn't played badly enough to be cut, and he's incredibly expensive if you move him. Marvin Harrison Jr. has not played well at all and kind of was shut down for the year. Arizona's a rebuild, and Jonathan Gannon was just fired. It's like that is a really interesting rebuild. There's not, in my opinion, a third quarterback in this draft that should go that high. Ty Simpson from Alabama just declared he started 15 games in college, way below that 25-game mark we want guys to be at. He tailed off toward the end of this year as defenses kind of figured them out. So it's fascinating. If you're Arizona, you're probably going to go offensive line or try to move out of that spot. But this is not a top-heavy draft. This is not the year where you, unless you're the Raiders and need the quarterback, this is not the year where you really want a top 5 pick. It's also not the year where teams are going to be coming up into the top 5 to get players, because there's not a Will Anderson, that teams as a non-quarterback that someone's going to trade up to get.
Now, you mentioned the Raiders real quick with looking at Mendoza. What do they do at coach, though?
Yeah, that's the great question. And I don't know if how involved Brady's going to be, if we could see, maybe Jesse Minter comes up from the Chargers, given the Michigan connections there. And maybe they go more of like a defensive minded head coach with an offensive coordinator who's a little bit younger. That is a fascinating question. Of like,
does Josh McDaniels try it again?
I hope not, man. And that ran through my mind, but
yep.
At some point you got to realize like you're the world's best sous chef and not try to open your own restaurant. And it's like
which is just fine, man. Which is just you can make a lot of money doing that, a lot of success,
hell of a lot of money, and win a lot of games, and not have the stress of getting fired every year. I think sometimes you got to realize it's better to be Robin than Batman, and that's Josh McDaniels.
I watched Trinidad Chambliss the first time that Ole Miss played Tulane this year. Early in the year, he was thrust into action. I don't know why he was sitting behind the other quarterback that they had at Ole Miss.
Because he's a 5-star. That's the only reason.
I know. I was a 5-star, and the Chambliss was a D2, overaged kind of guy, and that may change his prospect status. But man, the sequence that he put together last game, from a scouting perspective, there's still a lot more you got to see, but he delivered a series of remarkable throws of the bullets, of the feathered back shoulder ball into the end zone, what he was doing with his feet. I love how he resets his throwing platform and keeps his mechanical base set even when he is moving with speed. I've not seen him enough under center yet to know. Can he turn his back and snapshot the defense? But in my mind, he's risen into a legitimate guy who could play in the NFL.
Yeah, and it's wild. When I was watching that game, I was like, God, this reminds me of Bryce Young. That's what I kept getting. It was like the quickness in his reads, the way he can move.
He's more physically substantial than Bryce Young,
though. A little, yeah. He's like 6'1", 200 pounds. So he's a little bit bigger than Bryce. Yeah, a little bit. And I think he plays bigger, but like the quick reads, the fast release. I'm a fan, and I hope, and I apologize if something has broke today about this. I hope we get a full season of watching him play next year for Ole Miss, because to just watch him, I want to see what he does with 15 games, because he was elite down the stretch this year. And like you said, for Austin Simmons to be anointed the guy after Jackson Dart, and then, oh wait, we've got a dude on the bench that threw like 21 touchdowns to 3 picks this year and led us to a huge upset in the college football playoffs. Like I want to see what he can do for a year, and probably in an offense that does, I would think, adjust with Lane Kiffin gone.
All right, Matt, final thing for you before we let you go. Your take on these two games. So we got Miami and Ole Miss, Oregon, Indiana. Who's going to the championship game?
Oh my gosh. I think Miami's defensive line is just too good. So I'll take Miami. I don't feel great about that, because Carson Beck is just such a wild card when he's pressured, but I think Miami's defense is just too good. And then I'm going to take Indiana. We've seen them do it. We saw them do it in Eugene. So the fact that they're doing it on a neutral field, that the whole team's just playing too well right now. Kurt's in his bag as far as the play calling. Mendoza's flawless right now. They match up really well against Oregon's secondary with their wide receivers. So I'll go Miami against Indiana.
All right, buddy.
There you have it. Matt Miller, we appreciate you doing this as always, and look forward to talking next week.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks.
All right, pal.
That is Matt Miller of ESPN. You can find his work on the socials at NFL Draft Scout.
Miami and Indiana.
Okay.
Be a fun one.
Yeah, he's right about that defensive line, too.
Yeah,
they're nasty.
That looks like a pro defense, man.
Yep.
That's something to watch. I hadn't watched much Miami game, but, man, that's
at some point, remind me. I want to talk about Kurt Signetti at some point. Just how much he's sort of cutting against the grain in some ways of modern coaches, like the cool guy coaches. He's not. He's an old-fashioned hard ass, an old-fashioned coachy father figure hard ass.
Yeah.
And I like it.
Yeah, I do too.
I like it.
Did clearly working.
Remind me, does Indiana have one of those like the turnover costume or the touchdown hat or chain.
So I
or-
don't know. And again, haven't watched a ton of Indiana games. I've only watched, I think, 2 or 3 this year. And I didn't notice anything on the
All right,
sideline.
I'm not getting them off my lawn. I'm not saying it bothers me. I just want to make sure before I talk about Cignetti,
It'd be surprising.
I just want to make sure that he's yeah, fine. Put on your silly helmet because you got a turnover kind of thing.
Yeah.
I like his old school hard ass.
Well, I'm sure
teacher kind of thing.
a listener will be able to reply to us in one of the comments or email out to the
I know.
show.
Believe me, I know that I can tell when one of our pods has reached a certain threshold of consumption.
Yeah.
Based on the feedback that comes in, it's always about the least important aspect. It's the strongest thoughts that people are like, well, I got to tell him he's wrong about where to get this ice cream. It's always something like that.
And, you can email the show anytime, Dan at 312sports.com, Matt at 312sports.com. And if you haven't gotten the new free 312 Sports app in the Apple App Store or Google Play,
I have it.
make sure you do that.
I have it.
Be sure to get it. Not you. I'm talking about them,
see
you.
that?
Not you,
Look at that.
them, you.
Look at that. There, see it right there's the new OWC episode. You see Dan Bernstein Unfiltered. You can scroll. There's all kinds of stuff, and there's giveaways. See these new giveaways.
New giveaways. So make sure
New
you register your
giveaways.
account. You can win great prizes like dinner for 2 at Jet's Pizza. You get fast delivery, tasty pizza with fresh, delicious ingredients. Morton's,
Ooh.
the steakhouse.
Ooh, it's $100 gift card.
And the Smith in the heart of the river. The Smith is a great, great place. You haven't eaten there
The
yet.
heart of the river. That'd be very wet.
So all you have to do, well, you're not actually in the river. You're like on the river.
The heart of River North, I think.
Yeah, but not on the river. You're not like literally in the water.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Unless there's like scuba equipment and
Right,
like
that'd be-
wetsuits they give you.
Yeah, that'd be bad.
Food get wet.
Right, that's what I said.
Yeah, it would be weird.
I think it's the heart of River North.
So just enter the promo code EAT on any reward for a chance to win. Again, that's Jet's Pizza, Morton's, and the Smith. We have some past winners too.
And let's just mention too, the tickets for Guns N' Roses with Public Enemy.
Oh yeah,
Still there.
Still there.
And the code word for that is still Bears.
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 So this new one for Jets, Morton's, and the Smith is EAT, E-A-T. And then our past winners from our previous contest, Dan Smashburger,
Yes.
was who was this?
Andrew Rubeck.
Andrew Rubeck from Aurora.
And then Giordano's, that was won by Anthony Tolliver from Chicago. Anthony Tolliver, wasn't that an NBA player named Anthony Tolliver?
I don't think it's the same guy. I'm sure there was a guy named Anthony Tolliver at one point in the NBA.
I'm pretty sure.
There's been a few guys that go through that league.
I think so. Yes. I wonder if it's the same. Anthony Lamar Tolliver
I'm going to say no.
is a former professional basketball player, played for the Creighton Blue Jays. He played for the Spurs, Blazers, Warriors, T-Wolves, Hawks, Bobcats, Suns, Pistons, Kings, Grizzlies, and Sixers, and in the NBA Developmental League and in Germany and Turkey.
All right, so if you're Anthony Tolliver, former NBA player that won our Giordano's contest,
Dude.
shoot us an email. We'll have you on the show. We'll talk about your NBA travels because you've been a place or
Goodness.
two. And then our Firehouse restaurant winner was Kevin Goodwin of Glen Ellen. So again, enter
Congrats.
EAT, the code EAT, E-A-T, for Jets Pizza, Morton's, and the Smith, the Guns N' Roses, and Public Enemy. It's still Bears.
Yep.
So do that, but get the app. You can get all of our podcasts there, DBU, Forward Progress, OWC,
And
my new podcast, From the 50. We have a couple episodes out now. We had our intro episode. You can get it anywhere you pod, as well as the 312 Sports app, the best way to do it. And then our first episode was with actor John Ortiz. He spent 90 minutes with me.
I forgot that he's the guy in Kong Skull Island that gets ripped apart by the mini pterodactyls.
So I had it to talk about, and we just got into so many things, and I couldn't get to that. And there were so many things I wanted to get to, so many movies as well, too. But 90 minutes, it was a great conversation. I have a great guest lined up for our episode next week. Mondays, they drop Monday morning, like really early. You wake up, I think I post them for like 5 a.m. So you wake up Monday morning, it'll be there for you from the 50. My next guest is a guy named Tom Sillo. Never heard of him. He's a 58-year-old, currently 58-year-old college freshman who walked onto his D3 team and made the football team
cool.
as 58 years old.
Ow.
Yeah, and so he's staying with the team, and he's actually moving his position, hoping to get some playing time on the field in his sophomore year, which is just insane.
So what an interesting perspective and a unique perspective. Very few people celebrate turning 58.
But could you imagine being around a
doing that.
team of like college age kids and like
Yeah.
what like but
Yeah.
but
I
you
actually-
being you
Yes.
and like being in a locker
can.
room and yeah.
Get off your phones.
Right.
Get off your phones, you bastards.
Anybody see my readers? I can't find my glasses.
Live your life. Look at what's happening around you.
Who took my glasses again? I can't see.
Experience what you're actually participating in rather than looking at your phone half the time.
So get the 312 Sports app. It's free. The Apple App Store as Google Play as well. So make sure you do that and enter for those contests. It's some good stuff.
Some more Bears stuff we have to do on Forward Progress. Getting back to the play that is continuing to stick in our minds for a lot of reasons from the last game, and that was that weird-looking interception that Caleb Williams threw, where DJ Moore made a half-assed attempt on it. We've looked at still photos, snapshots to try to understand why the ball ended up going where it did and asking questions. Well, what happened on that play? What can be learned from it, Ben Johnson, to make sure it doesn't happen again? And I do think that the reporters on the beat did a pretty decent job of bringing it up, and there's some more context after the fact that we can add.
When you look back at Caleb's interception in the end zone, where does Durham Smythe maybe fit in the progression for Caleb on that one?
Yeah, if he feels like he doesn't have the deep ball, then he'll throw it to Durham Smythe.
Asked and answered.
That was a very terse response because of how open Durham Smythe was. And because Williams didn't really seem to look at him.
So now just keep in mind that was from Monday. That's Monday's cut from Ben Johnson meeting the media through Zoom. So still, I think more feeling the feelings and emotions of disappointment and anger that he carried off of that game on Sunday. So I don't know if that play in particular elevated his level of irritation or anger, or if it was just overall encompassing from the loss. That answer was very short and terse because he didn't seem to see Durham Smythe being wide open. But that's the coach saying second read. Right, second read. But he also said if he didn't think he had the first read, which is DJ Moore, is that the same route that DJ Moore ran in the Packers game for the win?
It looked shallower.
Okay, now does it mean it wasn't the same play call? Maybe he ran it differently because
of the proximity to the end zone.
His effort wasn't what you'd want on that play from the wide receiver. He gave up on that ball for whatever reason.
I don't understand exactly what happened, and I do think that if you did look at it in still by still, and you ask a quarterback, here, do you have, what do you see? Do you have it? Yeah, I've got it. He's got a step. I've got it. I think it changes once the ball leaves his hand. Everything looked different.
Yeah,
that I could understand. My guy's going to win this, but it's like he gave up on it.
Yeah,
like we don't know what would have happened if DJ Moore had fought for that ball.
Yeah,
had finished the route and fought for the ball and high pointed it.
I would like to see at the time of release what Caleb Williams saw.
That's my point.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
I don't want to criticize him on what we saw in the outcome because they may have that. They're moving that thing back and forth in film or to get it exactly when he made that decision. And it may have looked good.
And so this is Monday when he gives this answer. We don't know how much of the tape that Ben Johnson watched. So maybe he didn't have that breakdown.
Correct.
So it's possible that he didn't. But if he did, and that's the answer he gave, then he saw something that we haven't seen yet or won't see, and he clearly missed the read.
Now, the reason that I bring it up also, the reason I wanted to concentrate on this and why we grabbed that response was because of, what's my rule? Always read mailbags.
Yes, always read mailbags.
Always read when somebody on the beat posts a mailbag.
Yeah, and change your underpants. Yeah.
Well, yes, when you have to. This mailbag more important.
Okay.
when a beat writer posts a mailbag, because there are things that can be in there that are hidden there that they may not want to make a bigger deal out of, but you can still comb through there for really important things and really important context. And I do think that there is something significant in here from what Brad Biggs posted today.
And this is not the first time you've done this in the last couple of weeks with the Brad Biggs mailbag.
Read mailbags.
Yeah.
Especially from somebody like Biggs.
Yeah.
Who knows stuff, who gets stuff. You can also do it whether it's Casey Johnson or some people who are already have reporting bona fides, who are good at their jobs, but maybe working on the team side.
Yeah.
And it may not be something in the middle of the game they want to tell you. It may not be something they want to headline, but it's a way for actual journalists who are now functioning more on the PR side of the continuum to tell you, yeah, I'm seeing this. There can be subtle ways they're telling you stuff that lets you meet them halfway.
Right.
So here's what I think might be an example from Biggs. Let me read you 2 paragraphs. Williams has to be better too. The interception he threw to Avonte Maddox when he went for the big play to DJ Moore was similar to the concept used on Moore's game-winning touchdown in overtime against the Packers. But Durham Smythe was completely uncovered and would have gained a huge chunk of yardage. He might have even scored. Williams never looked off the alert, DJ Moore, and when he released the ball, the Lions had a triangle over Moore with Maddox and 2 cornerbacks. On the first down throw to Luther Burden before the punt with 1:55 remaining, the wide receiver had a nice lane for run after the catch, but Williams' throw was high and was a fast ball when a touch throw pass was required. So those are 2 direct criticisms of Caleb Williams by Biggs when he said he never looked off. That's pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Was similar to the concept used, would have gained a huge. He never looked off the alert. So he's watched it. And when he released the ball, the Lions had the triangle there. And blaming him for the other one. And some of this was set up by the comments that were made by Ben Johnson about the offense. And when you focus on these things and add into the end, Williams needs to be better, we're always asking, when Ben Johnson is talking about the offense, he's talking about whom specifically? And sometimes I start to think, this was directed at Caleb, or he meant this. He said the offense, but he meant the quarterback. And sometimes he says the quarterback and didn't hear. But just be mindful of it. That when Biggs says this, he's not making this up. He's not just choosing this. He's getting information from the team about what's going on here and about what they're thinking also. It's a window into what they're thinking. So with this context, it sharpens some of Ben Johnson's comments that clearly are directed toward the quarterback.
Yeah, no, I won't disagree with that at all. That's clearly where he's aimed that at, because you could argue that Ben Johnson has preached chunk plays, big explosives, and that's what Caleb was doing. Caleb was doing what you want him to do, but that
would have had an explosive.
He would have had yes, he would have had an explosive with Durham Smythe, absolutely, and that's about being patient and being able to read those progressions and know what the better play is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's still an explosive, and as Biggs wrote, possibly could have scored that wide open. That's one you can't miss. And I know that's one that Ben has gone over with Caleb without knowing that they have. They have. Like, what did you miss here? What did you...
Especially because they went back to what they thought was a comfortable, confident play call.
Mm-hmm.
Because it had worked, the similar concept.
Yeah.
That you've got to trust. And even when it worked against the Packers, it's more likely he throws it elsewhere on that same play. That's the home run. That's the, oh my God, you'll give it a shot if it's there. Give it a good long look.
Right.
But usually on that play, 8 times out of 10,
that ball's going to somebody else.
Right. It doesn't complete.
Or that's not even the target.
Right. You know what? I wonder, I really would love to hear from the Bears' perspective, the coach's perspective, and we're not going to hear that unless someone asks and then shares that information, what they saw of DJ Moore on that play. Because I'm really curious to hear how culpable he was in that interception as well. Yeah, he probably made the wrong read, didn't go through his progressions like he needs to.
But help him out.
In Ben's offense. But what were you doing? What happened? And if there's a reasonable explanation for why he slowed up, I'd like to know that, just for the sake of not criticizing DJ Moore.
A last thing for today in this space, we should hear more about that. The other thing, if I were a reporter going in today with Ben Johnson talking probably about now, if you're hearing this soon after it posts, what's really going on with Tyreek Stevenson?
Yeah.
I think it's very important that there's some drill down. Is he just a backup now? He's healthy, and you had some problems with your cornerbacks, but not enough to get Tyreek Stevenson on the field, even after he's been a major contributor this season, especially early in the season.
Right, because it's okay. You have the decision as the head coach to determine your depth chart. And if you feel Jalen Johnson's 100% back and Deshaun Wright is the guy on the other side, you only have two cornerbacks. And if Tyreek Stevenson is not a starter anymore and your starters are there, then you say that. And you say, hey, this is the roster. This is our depth chart. Jalen's back. Jalen's our number one. Deshaun has played himself into the number two with all the takeaways. He leads the league in creating takeaways.
They've essentially said that.
He's our two. But Johnson said that I felt good about Shawnee and Johnson, Shawnee and Jalen, however he said it, and I wanted them to get the bulk of the snaps. They didn't get the bulk of the snaps. They got all the snaps. Tyreek didn't get one. Jonathan Owens was on the field.
Safety.
I know, but still, I mean, he got two snaps. Jones, the special teamers, got two snaps.
Jones, yep.
Tyreek Stevenson didn't see the field. And if that's the depth chart, then just say that. By not saying things like that, there are creating questions given Tyreek Stevenson's history. That's all.
And let's not forget, too, they've got three corners that C.J. Gardner-Johnson was having a bad game, too.
Right. He had a real bad game. And now his head got hurt.
And you could move somebody else inside and have him play the slot if you want to get Stevenson out there.
Right.
But it deserves more scrutiny going into this game.
If there's something that happened, if he didn't practice well, if he missed something, if there was, I don't know. I mean, again, these are all speculations. Attitude based on playing time or what was projected for the game plan.
He's had eruptions at practice before.
Right. But he's also been one of your most valuable players the first half of the season. He made what probably is still one or two best defensive play on the season on that takeaway in the Cowboys game. Yeah. Deshaun Wright's backwards interception over his head is probably the number one play, or that could be two. But that play that Stevenson makes going up the sideline to steal the ball away is one of your top plays on your defense this year. And now the guy can't get to the field with no explanation for it.
There's a lot to be asked. I hope some of that gets asked and followed up.
And also, though, the follow-up to that, Dan, is the two guys didn't play that good. That's the point. Like, if they played great, no one cares that Tyreek Stevenson didn't get the field. You say, oh, my God, they played so well, Stevenson. All right, that's how the depth chart goes. They didn't play that good.
Especially in a man-heavy game plan.
Yes.
Because remember, coming out of college,
that's what he plays.
He was looked at as more of a press man, physical corner than he was a drop to a landmark, responsible cover two corner zone guy.
I'm not saying he would have been better against St. Brown and Williams, but like they weren't good at all. Like, how many plays were they trailing?
Bottom line, why has a healthy contributor, a positive player, dropped out of the rotation?
Yeah.
Why?
What happened?
I
think it's fair.
Yep. I'd like to know that, and I'd like to know what happened to DJ Moore on this defining play in that game.
Agreed.
All right. Well, those are notes. We'll see if by tomorrow we maybe have some answers to discuss. We're like 72 hours away.
I know. We're getting there.
From kickoff. We are getting
Can't
there.
wait.
For Bears and Packers. We're going to cover all of it, and we'll have a live postgame for you. Don't forget that, because we are Forward Progress on 312 Sports.
Forward progress is stopped. 10, 219, 219.
Forward Progress. A Chicago Bears podcast with Dan Bernstein and Matt Abatacola on 312 Sports.